on the distant planet of Xyrath, where the skies shimmered in colors no human had ever imagined, Elora moved silently through the dense jungle. The air was thick with a scent of minerals and sweet, glowing pollen that floated lazily through the air. She had lived on this planet her entire life, hidden from the stars above, working on something far greater than anyone could imagine. In a valley tucked between massive crystal cliffs, she had built her laboratory. It was a place of light and knowledge, of quiet hums and blinking instruments, where she studied the rare energy crystals that pulsed with life itself. Elora's fingers brushed the edge of a crystal, feeling its vibrations. She had spent decades trying to understand them, to unlock their secrets, and now, after countless experiments, she was closer than ever. The crystals were alive in a way that defied simple thought. They responded to emotions, to intention, and to care. To misuse them would be disastrous, but to understand them fully, that was beyond even her wildest dreams. She had hidden her work carefully. No other intelligent beings knew this place existed. No one could reach it. Or so she thought. The day had begun like any other, with the soft hum of energy flowing through the lab and the gentle glow of crystals reflecting on her careful notes. Elora had just begun a new experiment, measuring the subtle energy shifts when crystals interacted with one another, when her sensors detected a signal. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible, but growing stronger. She paused, her heart tightening. A spacecraft had entered Xyrath's orbit. Elora crouched behind a wall of shimmering energy, watching the unusual blinking lights in the sky. Her mind raced. Humans had been rumored to explore far-off worlds, but no one had ever found Xyrath before. She had taken every precaution. The lab was cloaked, the energy fields masked her presence, and she had used false signals to mislead any wandering sensors. And yet here it was, a ship, gliding gracefully through the violet atmosphere, approaching the planet's surface. And within it, a single human. She could not stop herself from whispering to the crystals as she always did, a ritual for clarity and focus. They cannot see us. They cannot touch the crystals. Please guide me. The crystals pulsed slightly as if acknowledging her fear. She had to remain calm. Panic could disrupt the delicate balance of her experiments. Every decision she made now could change the future of the planet and of her work. The human emerged from the ship. Tall, strong, moving with purpose, yet cautious. He looked around the alien landscape with awe and curiosity. His suit reflected the swirling lights of the sky, and his eyes, Elora noticed, held intelligence and gentleness. She had seen humans before in distant transmissions, but never up close. They were unpredictable. They could bring creation or destruction, often without meaning to. Elora felt her pulse quicken. Her entire life's work, the secrets of Xyrath and the living crystals, all were at risk now. Every instinct screamed for her to hide, to retreat further into the jungle, to shut down the lab's systems. Yet, she could not. She was rooted in place, watching as the human moved closer, slowly, examining the ground and sky as if he were listening to the world itself. Elora thought of what she knew about humans. They were explorers, problem solvers, and sometimes when they understood something, they became protectors. But more often they were careless, driven by curiosity that could destroy without thought. Fear twisted in her chest. If he found the crystals, if he touched them without understanding, it could shatter everything. She whispered again, "Do not see the crystals. Do not touch what is not ready to be known." The human paused, looking around as though sensing something unseen. He walked carefully, yet with confidence. Elora watched his every move. He seemed different, aware, respectful, not the kind to recklessly meddle with powers beyond comprehension. Still, she could not know. The fear of exposure clung to her like a shadow, and for the first time in decades, she realized that all her careful planning was now meaningless. She remembered the first day she had arrived on Zirath as a young researcher, when the jungle had seemed endless and unyielding. She had been determined to uncover the secrets of life, to learn how energy and nature intertwined. She had built this lab, her sanctuary, her home. Here, she had discovered the crystals and learned their language in whispers of vibrations and light. No one else could have done it, she had thought. And yet, standing there, hidden behind an energy shield, she realized that her isolation had ended. The human, Captain Aaron, had started walking toward a ridge, his attention caught by the light reflecting off a stream of crystal shards. Elora's hand hovered near the control panel of her lab. She could activate defensive systems, mask the crystals, or even teleport the most sensitive specimens to another location. But every option carried risk. A wrong move could draw his attention, alerting him to the presence of life she had worked so hard to protect. Instead, she decided to observe. Slowly, cautiously, she allowed herself to breathe. The human did not reach for the crystals. He paused, knelt beside a shard, and used a scanning device to take readings. He was meticulous, precise, careful, not reckless. Elora felt a flicker of relief. Perhaps he was not here to destroy, but to understand. Still, her fear did not leave. Humans were complicated creatures. They could admire a world and still unknowingly harm it. She watched as he took careful notes, as though treating the crystals with reverence. She realized that she had underestimated them. Not all humans were careless. Some, like this one, could be allies. The human began moving again, closer to the jungle where her lab was hidden. Elora's mind raced. She could not allow him inside. The energy crystals were too powerful, too delicate, and yet something inside her urged her to pause, to observe, to see if his curiosity could lead to understanding rather than harm. Arin paused at the edge of the jungle. He looked around as if sensing the presence of something extraordinary. His hand rested lightly on his scanning device, and he whispered softly to himself in a language that was alien yet gentle. Elora realized he was cautious, respectful, aware of forces beyond his comprehension. A small hope stirred within her, a hope that perhaps not all humans brought danger. She allowed herself to step slightly closer, hidden behind a translucent barrier of energy. Her heart beat steadily now, in tune with the pulses of the crystals. She could feel their life, their responses to the presence of the human, and strangely, they seemed curious. They pulsed more strongly, not in alarm, but in recognition of something new. Aaron, still unaware of her presence, continued his careful exploration. He spoke softly into a device, recording observations, but not touching the crystals directly. He marveled at the colors, at the vibrations, at the way the energy seemed alive. Elora watched him with awe and fear, realizing that this encounter could change everything. The secrecy of her work, the isolation of her life, and the future of Zirath itself. Everything depended on what happened next. She whispered again, this time not in fear but in cautious hope. May he understand. May he respect what cannot yet be shared. The crystals shimmered in response, their light filling the hidden lab with a warm glow. For the first time, Elora felt a strange connection forming, a link between human curiosity and alien understanding. Captain Aaron finally looked up, toward the dense canopy of the jungle, sensing something beyond the ordinary. He did not see her, yet he sensed that the planet held secrets, life, and knowledge far beyond what he had imagined. Elora realized that she was no longer just an observer. She was part of a moment that could define the relationship between humans and Zirath for generations. Her fear had not disappeared, but it had transformed. It was no longer a paralyzing terror, but a careful awareness, a recognition that something extraordinary was happening. She knew that her next choice would matter, that the human before her could be either a threat or a guide to a new understanding. And in that realization, she whispered once more, her voice barely audible, blending with the hum of the crystals. Let this encounter bring wisdom, not destruction. The alien scientist took a deep breath and stepped back into the shadows, letting the human continue his careful exploration. She watched him for hours, noting every gesture, every glance, every moment of wonder. And slowly, as the sun of Zirath dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in colors even more vivid than before, she understood that her life of secrecy was about to change forever. The human was not just an intruder, he was a bridge to something greater, something neither species had yet imagined. As the night settled and the jungle's whispers grew louder, Elora remained hidden, listening, observing, and learning about the human who had arrived uninvited yet unthreatening. Fear still lingered, but so did a new feeling, anticipation. She knew that tomorrow would bring contact, conversation, and perhaps the beginning of a partnership that could illuminate the secrets of Zirath and beyond. For now she waited, whispering softly to the crystals, feeling their gentle vibrations against her hands and realizing that the universe had sent something extraordinary to her hidden world. And for the first time in decades, she felt a flicker of hope. The following morning, the planet of Zirath glowed with a soft, golden light, illuminating the crystalline cliffs and the dense jungle below. Elora, hidden within the shadows of her lab, observed the human from afar. He had spent the night near his small craft, carefully maintaining it, and now he was preparing to explore further. His movements were deliberate, careful, and respectful of the world around him. Elora felt a mixture of curiosity and fear. She had seen humans only in distant transmissions before, but this one, Captain Aaron, seemed different. There was a gentleness in the way he approached the landscape, a patient curiosity that did not seek to dominate, but to understand. Still, she knew she could not reveal herself too soon. The crystals, and everything she had worked for, were too valuable to expose without preparation. Aaron stepped into the jungle, scanning the terrain with devices that hummed softly in his hands. He had learned, from training and experience, to move carefully in new worlds, to avoid disturbing fragile ecosystems. Every footfall was measured, every glance attentive. Elora's pulse quickened as she watched him approach the edges of the clearing where the most delicate crystals were hidden. These crystals were rare and extremely sensitive. Any sudden interaction could cause irreversible changes. Elora whispered to herself, "Do not touch. Observe. Learn." She knew she could not stay hidden forever. The human was intelligent, perceptive, and careful, but he did not yet understand the life within these crystals. She would need to guide him, to show him the right way to interact without revealing herself too early. Aaron paused, kneeling beside a small formation of crystals that pulsed faintly beneath the soil. He extended a scanning device, letting it hover above the surface without touching it. The crystals responded subtly, their energy flowing toward the device as if curious about this foreign presence. Aaron's eyes widened in amazement. He whispered softly to himself, a habit of humans when faced with awe, This is incredible." Elora felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this human was not here to harm, but to understand. She took a small, careful step closer, still hidden behind a translucent energy field. She watched as he made careful notes, recording the vibrations and energy readings. Each action was precise, respectful, and full of wonder. The fear that had gripped her for hours softened slightly. Hours passed, and Aaron continued his meticulous exploration. He did not approach the lab directly, but his path brought him closer with every step. Elora could feel the crystals vibrating in response to his presence, almost as if they were speaking to her through the energy. It was a language she had learned over decades, a subtle rhythm of pulses and light. The crystals seemed curious about him, as she was, and cautiously accepting. Finally, Aaron stopped at the edge of a clearing, raising his hand as if sensing something unseen. He scanned the area with his device, and then, in a careful motion, he reached out to a crystal that pulsed faintly in the sunlight. Elora's heart raced. This was the moment she had feared for decades. She could either step out, reveal herself, and risk startling him, or stay hidden and observe how he would interact with the crystals without guidance. For a long moment, she held her breath. Then, slowly, Aaron paused his motion. He tilted his head, as if listening to a voice only he could hear, and withdrew his hand. Instead of taking, altering, or moving the crystal, he simply recorded the energy reading and stepped back. Elora exhaled softly. His respect for the natural balance of Xyrath's energy was clear. He was not here to take. He was here to understand. Encouraged, Elora allowed herself to make a sound, a soft, careful tone, not loud enough to startle him, but enough to draw his attention. Aaron froze, scanning the area carefully, his eyes sharp and alert. Then he spotted her, not clearly, but as a faint shimmer behind the energy barrier. His expression was one of surprise, mixed with curiosity. He did not panic, nor did he raise his hand in alarm. Instead, he spoke gently. "Hello? Are you there?" Elora's mind raced. This was her chance to test him, to gauge his intentions. She chose her next action carefully, stepping slightly closer behind the shield, revealing just the outline of her form. "I am here," she whispered, her voice soft but steady. "Do not come closer. The crystals, they are delicate." Aaron nodded slowly, his hands visible and relaxed. "I will not touch them. I only wish to learn," he said. His tone was calm, respectful, and sincere. Elora felt a cautious relief. Perhaps this human could truly understand. Perhaps he could be trusted. For hours they observed one another, separated by the shimmering barrier of energy. Elora spoke softly, explaining the basics of the crystals without revealing too much. "They respond to care, to understanding, to intention. Any sudden action, any thoughtless touch could harm them." Aaron listened carefully, absorbing every word. His eyes sparkled with wonder, and his expression showed admiration. "You are remarkable," he said finally, after a long pause. "I have never seen anything like this. I promise I will not harm them. I want to understand, to learn, to help protect them if I can." His sincerity was clear, and Elora felt the first real sense of trust. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, they began to communicate more comfortably. Aaron asked questions, carefully phrased and thoughtful. Elora answered, guiding him through the basics of crystal energy, the life force that pulsed through Xyrath, and the balance required to preserve it. She did not reveal everything yet, but she allowed him to see enough to understand the importance of care and respect. In return, Aaron shared stories of humans, of their desire to explore, to learn, and sometimes to protect what they discovered. He explained how humans could work together to preserve ecosystems and knowledge, emphasizing collaboration over exploitation. Elora listened, fascinated by the possibilities. Perhaps humans could be allies, not threats. Perhaps this encounter could be the beginning of something greater. As the day passed, the two of them moved closer, cautiously bridging the gap between alien and human. Elora allowed Aaron to observe the crystals more closely, guiding his movements and teaching him the subtle ways to interact without causing disruption. The crystals pulsed gently under their care. their light reflecting in the eyes of both the alien and the human. Elora realized that she had underestimated humans. Not all were reckless. Some, like Aren, possessed patience, intelligence, and respect for life beyond their understanding. She felt a growing admiration for him, tempered by the cautious awareness that trust must still be earned. The human's presence had changed the energy of her lab, the rhythm of the crystals, and even her own perspective. By evening, they had established a careful rhythm of interaction. Aren would observe, record, and learn, while Elora guided and protected. They spoke little, but the communication was deep, filled with understanding and mutual respect. The crystals seemed to respond to this harmony, their energy flowing in gentle waves that connected the alien and human in a silent dialogue. Elora felt a strange sense of hope. Perhaps the secrecy of her work was no longer a burden. Perhaps sharing, guiding, and teaching could be more powerful than hiding. She had feared exposure, feared the unknown intentions of a human, but now she saw the potential for cooperation, for understanding, for friendship. Night fell on Zyrath, the skies glowing with swirling colors of violet, gold, and silver. The jungle whispered softly around them, the crystals glowing faintly in response to the energy of the world. Aren prepared to return to his craft, but paused before leaving. "Tomorrow," he said, "I would like to learn more. If you allow it, I want to understand as much as I can without harming anything." Elora nodded, a cautious smile touching her face. "You may," she whispered. "But remember, the balance must never be broken. The crystals are life, not tools. Respect them, and you will understand." As the human disappeared into the shadows of the jungle, returning to his craft for the night, Elora felt a profound shift within herself. Fear had not vanished, but it had transformed into careful hope. She realized that this human, this Captain Aren, could become a bridge, a partner, and perhaps even a friend. Together they could explore the mysteries of Zyrath, protect its fragile energy, and create something neither species had ever imagined. The night was quiet, filled with soft hums of energy and gentle whispers of the jungle. Elora returned to her lab, feeling the rhythm of the crystals in her hands, listening to their pulse, and knowing that the future had changed. The human was here, and though her life of isolation had ended, a new chapter had begun, one filled with wonder, learning, and the delicate dance of trust between two very different worlds. For the first time, she whispered to the crystals not in fear, but in anticipation. "We will teach him, we will guide him, and together we will protect this world." The crystals responded, pulsing with gentle light, as if agreeing with her decision. And in that moment, Elora knew that the human who had entered her world would not bring destruction, but the beginning of understanding, and perhaps even friendship that could last for lifetimes. The next morning on Zyrath, the sky glimmered in soft shades of gold and violet, and the jungle whispered in the gentle breeze. Elora stood near the edge of her laboratory, watching as Captain Aren emerged from the trees. His steps were careful, measured, showing that he remembered her guidance from the previous day. He paused briefly to take in the vibrant world around him, as if committing every detail to memory, before approaching the hidden energy field that separated them. Elora took a deep breath. Today would be different. Yesterday had been a test of observation, of trust, of patience. Today she would allow him to see more, to understand more, but still in a controlled way. The crystal's energy pulsed softly, as if responding to her intention. They had become aware of the human, not as a threat, but as a potential ally. The thought comforted her. "Good morning," Aren said, his voice calm and respectful. "I hope I'm not intruding. I have thought about the crystals all night, and I want to understand them better, without causing harm. Elora nodded slowly. You may approach, but not touch. Watch, listen, and feel. The crystals are alive in ways you cannot yet comprehend. They respond to intention, to care, to understanding. She moved slightly to allow him a better view of the smaller formations, the ones most delicate and sensitive. Aaron knelt carefully on the soft ground, letting his eyes travel across the glowing crystals. They are incredible, he whispered. I can feel their energy, though I don't fully understand it yet. He held out his scanning device, but hesitated before activating it. Elora sensed his thoughtfulness, his awareness of how even a small action could disturb the balance. You may record their energy, she said softly, but do not interact with them directly. Learn to sense them first. Only when you understand will you be ready to touch. For hours, they observed together, silent, except for the occasional soft comment or question from Aaron. He asked about the patterns of light, the subtle vibrations, and the way the crystals seemed to respond to the energy of the jungle itself. Elora answered carefully, guiding his understanding without revealing all the secrets too soon. She noticed that he absorbed every detail, connecting the behavior of the crystals to principles she had never spoken aloud. The crystals are like living mirrors, Aaron said thoughtfully, looking up at her. They reflect intention and thought. They respond not just to presence, but to respect. I think I understand what you meant yesterday. Elora felt a flicker of pride. He was learning, not just observing. Yes, she said. They are not tools, not objects. They are life. When you understand that, you begin to understand Zirath itself. The day moved forward in quiet harmony. Birds with translucent wings glided across the glowing sky, casting shifting shadows on the jungle floor. The soft hum of the crystals filled the air, a language of light and energy that Elora had spoken for decades alone. Now she shared it, carefully, with another being. She watched as Aaron learned to feel the rhythm of the energy, to sense the subtle pulses that indicated life, intention, and balance. Can they communicate? He asked after some time, his voice full of curiosity. Not with words, but in some other way? Elora considered the question. They do. Not like humans or aliens. They communicate through vibration, light, and energy. When you learn to listen, truly listen, you can feel what they are experiencing. Their responses are subtle, but powerful. Aaron's eyes widened. So it's like empathy? Yes, she said, but more. You can feel the energy of the planet itself. You can sense the balance of life around you. The crystals are a bridge between life and energy. They are delicate. They require care and understanding, not manipulation. He nodded slowly, closing his eyes for a moment. He let the quiet hum of the crystals fill him, letting the energy move through him without touching or altering. Elora watched him, fascinated by the human capacity to adapt, to learn, to respect the unknown. She realized that humans were capable of patience and understanding that matched even the most disciplined aliens. Hours passed, and Elora decided it was time to reveal a little more. She guided him deeper into the clearing, where a larger formation of crystals glowed with a steady pulsing light. These were older, more complex, and extremely sensitive. A single careless move could cause a reaction that would disrupt their delicate balance. Observe carefully, she instructed. Feel the flow of energy. Do not touch. Notice how each crystal interacts with the others. They are a network, a living system. Everything is connected. Aaron crouched near the formation, letting his hands hover just above the glowing surfaces. He did not activate any devices, instead relying on his senses to feel the subtle pulses. His eyes reflected the soft light as he whispered softly, "They're alive. I can feel them connecting with each other and with me in some way. Yes, Elora said, her voice almost a whisper. They respond to attention and intention. When you are mindful, they reveal their secrets. When you act carelessly, they close off, protecting themselves. The crystals are alive and they remember. Aaron nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. So, trust is part of it. They respond to respect. Elora smiled faintly. Yes, and respect is learned. Not all beings are ready to understand this. But you are learning. Together they spent the day in careful study. Aaron asked questions, sometimes simple, sometimes profound, about the nature of energy, life, and intention. Elora answered honestly but carefully, never revealing the deepest secrets of the crystals too soon. She could see that he was absorbing not just facts, but understanding. He was learning to feel the world, not just measure it. In the late afternoon, as the golden light began to fade and the sky shifted to shades of violet and silver, Aaron paused and looked up at Elora. I think I understand why you were afraid yesterday, he said softly. You've dedicated your life to this, to protecting it, and now I'm here. But I hope you can see that I only want to help, not harm. Elora's heart lifted slightly. I can see that, she replied. Humans are not all the same. Some rush, some take. But some can understand, as you are beginning to. She gestured to the larger formation of crystals. Tomorrow we will take the next step. I will guide you in interacting with them directly, but only when you are ready. Today you have learned to observe and feel. Tomorrow, you will learn to act without harm. Aaron's face brightened with quiet excitement. I will do my best. I want to learn everything I can. I want to help protect this place, not just for you, but for Zyrath itself. Elora nodded. She felt a new sense of purpose. This human had proven himself capable of patience, care, and understanding. He could be trusted to take the next step. Perhaps together they could do something extraordinary. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the jungle came alive with soft sounds and glowing lights. Elora returned to her laboratory while Aaron sat nearby, observing the crystals as night fell. The energy of the planet was different at night, calmer but more vibrant, and the crystals pulsed in harmony with the stars above. Elora whispered to herself and the crystals, a gentle ritual of connection and guidance. Tomorrow, we will take the next step. Trust and respect will guide you, human. The world will reveal its secrets if you are ready. The crystals responded with soft, rhythmic pulses, a silent acknowledgement of her words. The human remained nearby, focused and patient. He had proven himself worthy of the trust Elora had extended, and she felt a growing sense of hope. Perhaps humans were not just explorers or intruders. Perhaps they could be allies, friends, even partners in understanding the mysteries of the universe. As the night deepened, the jungle whispered softly, the crystals glowed faintly, and the bond between alien and human grew stronger. They did not yet speak openly, but a silent understanding had formed, a connection based on respect, learning, and the shared desire to protect something precious. Elora realized that fear, which had gripped her for so long, was no longer dominant. It had transformed into careful hope, anticipation, and cautious excitement. The human before her had proven that he could understand, could learn, could respect, and perhaps together they could uncover the true potential of Zyrath's energy, while keeping it safe for generations to come. The night was filled with quiet vibrations, soft lights, and whispers of life. Elora returned to her work, making careful notes and observations, while Aaron recorded his own reflections, each learning from the other. Their partnership had begun, small and careful, but full of potential. For the first time, Elora felt that sharing knowledge could be as powerful as hiding it, that the human's presence could bring wisdom rather than destruction, that together they could protect the crystals, the jungle, and the energy of Zyrath itself. And as she looked out at the glowing landscape, listening to the soft hum of the crystals and the gentle rustle of the jungle, she knew that the next step would be the most important yet. The day when the human would interact directly with the crystals, guided by respect, understanding, and the bond they had begun to form. The first light of Zirath's twin suns spilled across the crystal cliffs, casting long golden reflections over the dense jungle. Elora stood at the edge of her laboratory, feeling the gentle hum of the energy crystals beneath the soil. Today was different. Today, she would allow Captain Aaron to interact directly with the crystals, guided by her careful instructions. This was the moment she had been preparing for, and a mixture of anticipation and caution filled her chest. Aaron approached with the quiet respect he had shown since the moment he arrived. His steps were measured, his gaze attentive to the glowing landscape, and his hands hovered lightly at his sides, aware of the delicate energy that surrounded them. Elora's energy shield shimmered briefly, signaling her readiness. "You may approach the central formation," she said softly, her voice steady but calm. "Remember, these crystals are alive. Treat them with care, and they will respond. Treat them as objects, and you risk harming them." Aaron nodded. "I understand," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I will not harm them. I only wish to learn, to understand, and to protect." Elora guided him forward, step by careful step. The central formation of crystals pulsed with a steady rhythm, larger and older than the ones he had observed before. Their light reflected off one another, creating a network of energy that seemed almost like a heartbeat. Aaron stopped just at the edge, taking a deep breath, letting the soft hum of life flow through him before he reached out. "Focus on the energy, not the shape," Elora instructed. "Feel the flow, the connection. The crystals respond to intention, not force." Aaron extended his hands slowly, hovering just above the surface. He did not touch. Instead, he let his awareness guide him, feeling the subtle pulses and vibrations that connected each crystal to the other. Elora watched silently, her heart steady but alert. This was a test of patience, understanding, and respect. If he could do this without disturbing the energy, it would mean he was truly ready. For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the crystals filled the clearing, blending with the soft whispers of the jungle. Then Aaron began to move his hand gently through the air above the crystals, following the rhythm he could sense. The formation pulsed brighter, responding to his careful movements. Elora allowed herself a quiet smile. He was learning, not just observing, but interacting in a way that honored their life force. "You are doing well," she whispered. "Do not rush. Let them guide you." Aaron nodded, closing his eyes for a moment to focus entirely on the energy. When he opened them, the crystals responded in a gentle wave, their glow reflecting the harmony he had achieved. He spoke softly, more to himself than to Elora. "I can feel them. Like a living network, they are alive, and they know I mean no harm." Elora's pulse quickened with excitement. This was what she had waited for. The bond between alien and human had reached a new level. She could see the potential now, a partnership that could preserve Zirath and its secrets while allowing understanding and growth. As Aaron continued, Elora stepped forward slightly, still cautious but trusting his care. "You may touch lightly now," she said. "Only lightly. Let the crystals feel your intention." Aaron's hand moved gently, brushing against the surface of a crystal. It pulsed immediately in response, sending a ripple of light through the entire formation. He smiled in awe. "They're responding. I feel connected, not just observing, but part of it. Yes, Elora said, her voice filled with warmth. They respond to respect. When you act with care, they share themselves. When you act with fear or force, they retreat. You are learning to be part of their world, not apart from it. Hours passed in quiet exploration. Aaron moved from crystal to crystal, guided by Elora's subtle instructions, feeling the connections and energy flow. He recorded his observations carefully, but with a reverence that showed he understood the importance of the moment. The crystals pulsed brighter as the day progressed, as if they too recognized the harmony forming between the human and the alien scientist. Elora observed him, noting the patience, respect, and intelligence he brought to the task. She realized that humans, when guided properly, could be capable of profound understanding and care. Her fear had transformed completely into hope and admiration. The isolation she had relied on for so long was no longer necessary. Together, they could protect the energy of Xyrath and perhaps even share its lessons with the wider universe, without harm. As the suns began to lower toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the glowing jungle, Aaron paused and looked at her. "I think I understand now," he said softly. "It's not just about observing or recording, it's about listening, feeling, and responding. The crystals are alive, and they require understanding, patience, and care. I can feel the responsibility they carry." Elora nodded. "Exactly. And now you understand why I have been so cautious. They are fragile, but they are powerful. They are the heart of Xyrath. Protecting them is not just about shielding them from harm, but about learning to be part of their rhythm, their life." The human looked at her with admiration. "You've done an incredible job. The crystals, and this world, it's unlike anything I've ever encountered. I hope I can help protect it, not just observe it." "You can," Elora replied, her voice filled with quiet certainty. "But you must always remember this lesson. Respect, understanding, and care are more important than knowledge alone. Knowledge without respect can destroy, but understanding with respect can create harmony." Night began to fall, and the jungle's glowing lights became brighter against the deep violet sky. The crystals pulsed gently, their light reflecting on the faces of both alien and human. They moved together through the central formation, Aaron guided by Elora's subtle gestures and words. Each interaction was careful, deliberate, and full of learning. By the time the twin suns had set completely, the bond between them was complete. Aaron had learned to interact with the crystals directly, without causing disruption. The energy of Xyrath flowed through him and the formation, a silent connection that spoke of trust, understanding, and shared purpose. Elora looked at him with pride. "You have done well," she said. "You have proven that humans can be allies, not just explorers. You have shown patience, understanding, and care. Xyrath is safe with you here." Aaron smiled softly. "And I have learned from you. The lessons of respect, observation, and understanding, they will guide me wherever I go. I will protect this world, and I will remember what I have learned here." The night was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of crystals and the whispering jungle. Elora returned to her lab, feeling the energy of Xyrath pulse in harmony with her own. For the first time, she no longer feared the arrival of humans. She understood that some humans could be trusted, could learn, and could help preserve life beyond their world. In the days that followed, Aaron and Elora worked together. They explored the deeper networks of crystals, uncovering patterns and energy flows that neither could have understood alone. Aaron's human perspective combined with Elora's lifetime of study created new discoveries, all focused on maintaining balance and harmony. Elora realized that this partnership was more than just teaching. It was a bridge between two worlds, two species, and two ways of understanding life and energy. Humans had the capacity to adapt, to learn, and to care in ways that could preserve beauty and knowledge rather than destroy it. Aaron, for his part, marveled at the depth of understanding Elora possessed. Her knowledge of the crystals, the planet, and its energy was astonishing, but what impressed him most was her patience, wisdom, and careful trust. She had allowed him to grow, to learn, to earn her confidence, and he had risen to the challenge. Together, they had achieved something extraordinary. Weeks passed, and Zirath flourished under their care. The jungle thrived, the crystals glowed brighter, and the energy flowed in harmony with life. Elora no longer whispered in fear, but in quiet joy and anticipation. The human had not brought destruction, but understanding. The presence of an intelligent, respectful human had opened new possibilities for knowledge, preservation, and connection across worlds. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon and the jungle shimmered in silver and violet, Aaron spoke softly. "I will have to return to my own world eventually, but I will not forget what I have learned here, and I will share the lessons of care, respect, and understanding with others. Perhaps someday, more humans will learn to honor worlds like Zirath." Elora smiled, a feeling of profound satisfaction filling her chest. "Then you are ready," she whispered. "You have proven that humans can be more than explorers. You have shown that they can be partners, allies, and friends. This is the future of understanding, of life across worlds." The human nodded, looking out over the glowing jungle and the pulsing crystals. "I will remember," he said. "I will protect. I will honor." Elora watched him, feeling a quiet hope. Zirath's secrets were no longer hidden in fear, but shared with care. The alien and human had formed a bond that went beyond species, beyond knowledge, and into the realm of trust, understanding, and friendship. As night settled over the jungle and the crystals pulsed with gentle energy, Elora whispered one final time. "Together, we will protect this world. Together, we will learn. Together, we will ensure that Zirath thrives and that its lessons are never lost." And in that quiet moment, under the twin moons of Zirath and the shimmering lights of the jungle, the alien and the human stood side by side, connected by respect, understanding, and the knowledge that the universe was not just a place to explore, but a place to honor and protect. For the first time, Elora felt complete. The human had not brought fear, but hope. Not destruction, but partnership. And together, they had unlocked the true meaning of connection, between worlds, between species, and between life itself. The crystals pulsed softly, a living testament to the harmony that had been achieved. The jungle whispered in quiet approval, and the stars above glimmered like silent witnesses to a partnership that would endure for lifetimes. Zirath was safe, alive, and vibrant, and the alien and human knew that together they could face whatever mysteries the universe might bring, not with fear, but with understanding, respect, and hope.